Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano live stream. And joining me, like usual, we have Josh and Farid. And this is this our first one we've done after 2 weeks? I think the last one we said we're going to do them every 2 weeks going forward on a Monday. So sticking to schedule now. Unfortunately, we don't have Pete today. He is sick, but by the next one, hopefully we will have him with us as well. Anyone joining in, let us know how the audio is coming through. Are we coming through clear? I think we should be live, but you can let us know in the comments and let us know where you're joining in from. As usual, these are going to be fairly laid back. It's going to be taking whatever questions you guys have. A few topics, kind of bigger topics in the community right now I want to cover and be going around the table here, see what these guys have seen in the last 2 weeks. But anything you guys want to throw in, make sure and do so, because I think it makes for a better conversation. Share it out, give the video a like. That brings more people in too. But handing it over, Josh, how's all with you?
I am doing fantastic. It was a busy weekend. We'll cover it, but like we were trying to get out Copy Cafe episode 91, which had the biggest leak that Cornucopias has ever brought to that podcast, and it's an exciting one. By the way, Paul, I think Twitter might be having some issues. It looks like the broadcast is not available over there. Maybe you want to take a peek at that and see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, my enthusiasm has never dropped about Cardano over this full bear market cycle, and it's certainly not dropping as we're seeing this dip in the market. I think this is plenty to be expected, and I don't make my decision based on price anyways, but I'm more excited than ever about what we have coming up in this next year and a half.
Nice. Just actually for anyone on Twitter, I think it's coming through okay on Twitter, but if someone's watching over there, drop us a comment, please, just to let us know for sure if it is coming through. But on Cornucopias, yeah, we'll definitely get an update from you. And I seen Corey had asked there about staking, but we'll go over to Farid first and see what's been up with you for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, not much. Just staying in tune with the markets, trying not to drift away and sort of get lost. There's been so much to talk about, keep up with, make videos about. It's really interesting, right? So yeah, I would say I've been pretty good overall. No complaints. Excited for a lot of upcoming crypto events. We've obviously got the summit. We've got NFTLV, just trying to get ahead of that, making sure I've got my reservations, flight plans, everything like that. And speaking of Copy, I'll be joining the team with the upcoming consensus event in Austin, Texas. So that's like in my backyard area, and the team will be out here. So I'll be linking up with them. Hopefully I can get Josh out there. It'd be good to see and hang out with Josh over there. But I'm looking forward to it. And in terms of the stream, everything looks good on my end. So I'm not sure if it's maybe specific to Josh, but things do look to be up and running. As always, a pleasure to be here and to chat with the both of you guys. Thanks again for the invite.
Yeah, no worries. Look, I enjoy it, and I always learn something new from this. Hopefully people watching get a bit of entertainment and catch up on some of the latest, what's going on with Cardano. Anyone new to this, I have the two guys' links in the description down below. I'm sure everyone is already subscribed to them, but if not, make sure and sub. And between all of us, well, I think Farid on his own, the way that he pumps out his content would keep you up to date, and me and Josh will chime in with a few extra bits too. But as we're going to do these every 2 weeks, then what I figured is we could start them off every week, taking a quick look at Taptools to see what some of the latest stats, projects that are standing out. And then we'll get into some of the different topics that we have here too. So let's see, can I bring up my screen? So I think everyone should see it here now. So Taptools, if you're not familiar with it, it's the go-to place on Cardano for getting all your stats related to projects or trading or what's going on. And when you hold a Tappy NFT, then you have this section here for Pro. You also can go a lot deeper into the different projects and tracking, tracing what's going on with different wallets and everything like that. So top tokens by volume for the last, we'll look at the last 7 days. I know it's 2 weeks since we were here. Snake still dominating with volume. Look, in general, if we're looking at the levels of volume on Cardano, the volumes are still very low when you look compared to other chains. Hopefully, as we get further into the bull market, then we'll be able to attract a lot more in. And there's lots of projects building, doing things that will hopefully bring some of that volume in. Looking at the Bitcoin side, a few things going on that might bring some volume in from that side or unlock some of it, which are interesting with fluid tokens. You can see fluid tokens down here and what El Raulito and the team are doing. I had a chat with Raul today. That one should come out in the next few days. Nuvola, since they launched, have been doing very well. Volume, number 2 in volume for the last 7 days. I've seen they announced a new partnership, or their next partner is going to be Minutes Network, which is founded by Josh. Isn't it Josh Watkins? Yeah, Mickey's brother, who was one of the founders with World Mobile, or I suppose is still one of the founders, but has broken away to set up his own, which will be a business that complements World Mobile. Definitely one I need to dive a bit deeper. But Nuvola are going to be running some nodes there as their third one. First was Igon, and then Orcfax. They got an Orcfax node. So that's another topic we will have a chat about, is oracles and different things that have happened over the last few weeks with oracles on Cardano. WMT, doing okay. But for my belief in the project, volume is still very low in terms of interest and what's happening on Cardano. I know it's on a few centralized exchanges to get some volume too, but prices drop back. Like Josh said about looking at prices for projects like that I personally think are solid. I'm not too worried about the short term. Smoke seems to be a new meme coin, not one I'm familiar with. I don't know if you guys are.
Oh, I'm shaking my head. No, I'm not familiar with Smoke. I never heard of it before. Yeah, I mean, meme coins are meme coins. I don't pay close enough attention to the area of the space in order to give any information on stuff that might be coming new. So yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I will say, if I can jump in here about meme coins, you mentioned SNEC at the very top there. I'm realizing, I'm not sure if it's just the narrative for this run or whatever the case is, but meme coins and other ecosystems are getting a ton of love. Just today alone, we saw Pepe from the Ethereum network up over 25% on the day. Right now, it's down to 17% positive, right? But you take a look at that, no fundamentals. You compare that to Cardano, a lot of tech, a lot of building, so much going on here. I've realized very quickly, it's not about the tech, and it's unfortunate, but it's where the liquidity goes, right? So I would say don't fade the meme coins. Now, granted, Cardano isn't known for the meme ecosystem, right? That's sort of what like Solana, Ethereum are known for at the moment. But I think when we do get a pump within the L1 space in Cardano, SNEC will definitely do some numbers there. One of the strongest communities, and I think we actually skipped this during our last chat, but I know Max Maher or Max Maher, however you pronounce his last name, is like official ambassador of SNEC, right? So he's got obviously a lot of reach. The SNEC community, even before him, was extremely strong. So I'm going to really be keeping an eye out on SNEC. I know for the longest, I was like, man, I'm not playing any of the memes here in Cardano. But let's be honest, guys. I mean, if SNEC is going to run some numbers, I may just dip my toes in there. And then you touched on Nuvola. Really, really solid project. A lot of people have followed up with me on my channel just to let me know, hey, appreciate the coverage and you sort of giving us the exposure to Nuvola. I mean, they completely sort of blew my expectations. I didn't think that they'd be getting this much traction this quickly and this early on. Raul and the team are definitely working, right? You mentioned Orcfax and then more recently Minutes Network. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to run a World Mobile node. It might be a little bit more expensive. I think it's like $70,000 or $80,000 to pick one up right now, but really solid project. And I had a viewer who left a comment on one of my videos earlier, and he mentioned the fact that like DeFi right now is great, but it takes a little bit of knowledge, right? And Paul, I know you did a deep dive into the DeFi ecosystem not too long ago, but for a lot of people, they don't want to deal with DeFi. They'd much rather get a Depin project. And if Nuvola is able to be an aggregator service for that, I mean, it's literally hands off, right? You purchase the token, they do all the hard work, you reap the rewards. Whereas DeFi, you've got to monitor your positions, you've got to monitor your collateral, adjust your risk, be careful of LP. So it's a whole different game. And for me, I'm like sort of starting to see the picture. I'm like, Depin could be the next narrative where a lot of people begin to shift their assets because of how easy and sort of the hands-off approach that it provides if you're going through something like Nuvola.
Yeah, I think it's a good point on Nuvola. I think it's a it's an easy way for some people to earn passive income because it's not dividends, but it's effectively the same for holding the token. Then you earn anything they earn in different projects, and part of that is paid out to token holders. So it's a nice way to earn passive income. People, I suppose, need to work out the calculations on the cost of the token and what they're going to get returned and the profits. But if people want a simple solution, then that's a nice one. And like I talk about a lot, having different percentages of your portfolio broken up into different allocations, some for DeFi, some for memes if you want, some for Depin, some for passive areas like that. So you're not dependent on one particular asset. So if one part of the market starts to fall away, it doesn't take your whole portfolio with it. And I think even for me, that's what helps me not care about price as much, is when I'm allocated into different areas and different tokens, if one takes a complete drop in the market, then it doesn't impact me a huge amount. Obviously, when the overall market drops, it's not great for anyone, but I think that helps me in my mindset as well, is that I don't care as much about the day-to-day price when I'm more balanced out across different assets. SNEC, lots of times I don't really consider it a meme coin as much anymore, considering all the other stuff they're trying to do. I know it is a meme coin at its core and the community they're trying to build, but I don't put it in the same class as a lot of the other ones we see. Look, 99% of them that come out are just pump and dump. They're there, talk about the great community they're going to build and how they're all going to make it. But it's not. They don't ever do anything else but sell off after launch. So there's very few actually build a community that solid that actually do want to see the project succeed. So it's good to see. And Josh, any thoughts on any of them projects before we move on?
I like them both, and I have zero exposure to none of them. So you know that what I'm saying about both of these projects is genuinely just my opinion and not based on me trying to pump the token price. SNEC is fantastic, Paul. Like you, I consider it to be like a different class of meme coin because they're doing different things. They're doing out there, and they're really like, I think the main, at least to that degen audience in the greater crypto space, they're the drivers of that to bring people and attention to Cardano. Yes, they've really leveraged their skills in marketing, their community skills in marketing too. I think because of the more educated populace in Cardano and the people that draw towards the SNEC, they tend to have more skills behind them than other general meme coins do, and not just hoping that the founders do all the work to pump the price. So yeah, SNEC is fantastic. I don't own any because just meme coins are not my thing, and I like tokens with utility. I pay attention to more long-term, late game type of projects. Nuvola is one that I've been eyeing, that I've been considering, but like it's one of those things where it's like I could, if I wanted to, run some of the infrastructure that they run, and I could probably accumulate more rewards for myself if I just go through those projects directly. The main value appeal for me is the fact that the market cap is so stupid low, even after the pump. I think it's still, gosh, what is it now? Something in the ballpark of a 9 million ADA market cap, 11 million ADA, something like that.
Does it have it here?
To hit
14 million ADA.
14 million ADA. Yeah. Okay. So almost
$7 million.
Yeah. It's stupid low for a project that is able to capture and kind of de-risk. I in the video that I did, I called Nuvola sort of like a Depin index fund, because you can get exposure to a lot of different Depin plays, starting within Cardano, and they will expand into Ethereum and other chains, I think, later on as well. So yeah, it's a very like de-risk play in that you can get exposure to a larger spectrum of the Depin narrative out in the greater crypto space, but and you don't have to like risk all of your eggs in one basket by doing one individual play. So I really like their model, their business model, the way that they do things. I really like how incredibly low valued it is. And I think that's going to make a big difference going into it, especially for how big the Depin narrative is anticipated to be. So yeah, both of these projects I love. I don't own anything from them, but I really, really like the direction they're both going. I think they both in this next bull cycle, they both serve Cardano in really big ways.
And if I could add one closing thought, Paul, you actually read my mind. That was the comment I was going to address right there by Victor, or by Vic. So yeah, I mean, I just had I think it's Cat and Bob, or Chris is his real name, from the Cardano project, and they're going to be taking a very similar approach. And I think this is sort of the same twist, right, that we have with Nuvola, except with the entry into the project being the NFT. And right now the NFT space is down, but imagine when there is volume, there are eyeballs back into the space. I think a lot of these projects are going to do extremely well. And a little bit of foresight was like, if you take a look back at, I think it was Goofy Gophers Mining Club, at one point, you know, like they were one of the only projects with this sort of approach, and they did extremely well. Again, volume has sort of dried off, and, you know, prices have retraced. But I think that's just the entire NFT space, not just that particular project, right? So you take a look at Ape Society, you know, there's a list of them that are all, you know, sort of dropping. But generally speaking, I do think that it's a really solid model. One thing that I would like to see these projects do a little bit different is take an approach like Nuvola, right, which is to deal with actual projects, not just mining for particular blockchains. And then vice versa for Nuvola to also expand to just also maybe to even just run a Cardano stake pool, right? These are all different types of ways to continue to do what they do with Depin. But I think it's an awesome opportunity. And I think this is just like the very, very early stages of Depin. And I'm excited to see what some of these projects do. I'm actually going to be chatting with the Dirtbirds team. They've actually got an entire platform, super, super sleek. I mean, I was impressed. I spoke with one of their main leads, and it allows for you to gamify earning rewards from the World Mobile Earth node. So there's an entire sort of ecosystem where you can jump in there. There's a raffle. There's sort of like a hunt going on with these shrines. And again, I'll be having a live stream with them this coming Saturday. But it was really impressive to see how they were able to take their NFT ecosystem and then incorporate Depin rewards and World Mobile directly into that. So I think that'll be sort of like the next wave when the attention comes back into the NFT space.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't looked into Dirtbirds and what they're doing with World Mobile, but I'll definitely try and tune into that stream. In terms of this one, yeah, I liked to look at this question, the mining projects. Realm, I think there's House of Titans is the one that is doing something similar to Nuvola with Iagon, and where if you buy the NFT, they're buying new nodes and setting them up as they sell out the NFT sale. So I haven't looked any further than that into the project, but I know I get tagged in lots of stuff to look at it. And I do like that kind of model. In terms of mining the likes of Bitcoin, and I've never looked at mining Doge, but I did own Bitcoin miners a few years ago where I bought the miners in a facility and then there was a management fee. They managed it. It wasn't like before that, kind of the last cycle or even 2017, 2018, cloud mining was a big thing where you could buy shares in cloud mining, but how many of them were actually mining behind it all, I don't really know. A lot of them ended up being big Ponzi's. But with this other one that I've done was where you actually buy the miners and they're managed in a facility for you. And looking at the profitability on it, it ended up being a loss-making one. The facility had to shut down because they weren't making enough of profit. It's very hard to make profit as a Bitcoin miner. So any projects that are actually buying physical miners and mining, I'm very wary of that. Like you said, mining the blockchain or just one blockchain rather than individual projects, because at the rate that the miners get upgraded, it's very hard to even make profit unless you really time the market, unless you get them bought at the right time. And even when you place your order to buy them, generally the good time to buy them, there's a huge waiting list to get them. And the bigger companies always get them at the front of the line first. So by the time you get the high-end miners, there's already even higher end ones nearly coming out a few months later. So it's one I'm always cautious about from my own experience of having the miners and seeing the profitability there. But I do like the aspect of looking at individual projects and trying to do things a little bit different there, where it's not just as competitive as, say, Bitcoin mining. Doge mining might be a bit different. I'm not sure how profitable. Maybe if you're getting in around the times that Elon is tweeting and different things like that, then there's probably good times to be able to sell off if you line up your mining rewards with selling off in the market too. Josh, any thoughts on these types of projects before we move on?
Yeah, a part of that equation of what you're talking about, I think also has to do with the way that you're able to keep costs down when it comes to mining, and especially with proof of work blockchains, where you're located at in the world, and your access to cheap power, cheap electricity, that plays a big part in the profitability of that. And that actually ties back to Nuvola, and one of the things that I like about them. I think I saw that they're in like 6 or 7 countries, and their CTO is based out of India, which, if I'm not mistaken, you can get some pretty cheap electricity out in at least nearby that region for sure. So yeah, that's it's all part of the equation. It's all how you're able to keep costs and expenses low, and that's part of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. And even on the Bitcoin mining and stuff, to have it that you don't have to pay as much for cooling the place is definitely another factor in it, as well as the price of your. I think mine was in Siberia, where they had the facility, but even there, it was still, they put off some serious heat. The miners. See people listing projects. Let us know below different projects that you guys are looking at, and some that are bigger holes for ye, or why you like certain projects rather than just trying to shill projects. WMT, Igon, Kopi, Lenfi, Snack are the winners in this bull run. Axo rounds out my top 6. That's a good list of projects there. I would say it's very solid projects. I see we have Rob. Hey Rob, what's going on?
Hey,
representing Kopi, or maybe he's here to check up on Josh and make sure he doesn't give away too many leads.
It's fair.
Another metaverse project, Pavia, working hard, some good stuff happening over there. It's one I haven't followed up on in a while. I did a poll on the channel maybe a year ago, or nearly a year ago at this point. So it's probably one I should have a follow-up at some point. Rob's relaxing, getting ready for Austin for consensus next week. And what's this? Nuvola doesn't just help with the technical barriers, but for example, here in Germany, it's more tax efficient to get staking rewards. Yeah, that's another factor actually that I hadn't thought about, is that it's like what you see in some other ecosystems. You don't see it in Cardano just yet, is if you can get yield aggregators that do everything for you, there's potentially tax savings on that, rather than you doing the yield aggregating yourself and moving it all around. If a third party does it and just pays you back whatever out of it, then there's ways around tax things. If in certain countries, you obviously have to check things out for yourself, but if a third party handles that aspect, that's a good point I hadn't thought about for these types of projects that handle that for you. Fluid tokens. Hey, Doug, good to see you. That's what the Snackies team, I didn't look into Snackies at all. I see you nodding, Farid. Do you know about?
Yeah. They're taking that concept of the mining and the rewards profit model, right? So that's what we were highlighting earlier. And I was trying to explain to Doug that we weren't necessarily discussing Snackies, but other projects with a very similar incentive model.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose it's something that projects see the success of others, what they're doing, and try and bring out something similar. Gary Network isn't one I'm familiar with. I know most Cardano project names, but that one doesn't ring a bell. Maybe it is a newer one or one I missed. Extremely important point there to hit the like button. Anyone who hasn't done so yet, also the subscribe. And after this, make sure and subscribe to the 2 guys here. The channels are in the description. TVVIN or Twin. I used to say TVVIN until I talked to them on the channel, and then I was like, Twin. Private sale happening soon. Thoughts on this gem? After I talked, why am I drawing a blank? Someone give me the name.
Thomas.
Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah.
couldn't think. I could picture the interview in my head, but after I talked to him, I really liked the aspect of real world assets. I think some projects just play to it. Yeah, we're going to tokenize everything, and that's great. But what's the benefit of tokenizing the assets? Where what I really liked about what they're doing is earning yield on your real world assets. So it's not just buying gold or buying a digital representation of the gold. You can actually then utilize that in the vaults that they have. They handle the security. And with what he talked about, the partners, you could be earning, look, it might only be a few % on what you're on your gold, but, or I'm using gold as the example, there'll be other ones as well, but it's a few % more than if you were just holding that asset. So anything that actually brings yield, and he talked about different things, I think both on camera and off camera, we talked a bit longer after it, of things that are to come in that area of being able to get extra yield on your assets and different partnerships that might come to fruition. So I think it's definitely a project to keep an eye on. And it's one of them projects that I really like what they're trying to do token wise. I don't know what the token's going to do, but the actual project and the idea behind it, I really like. Josh, you follow it a bit too, don't you?
Yeah, no. Twin is definitely like one of my favorite RWA platforms to follow. And it's what I wanted to add in there was that, you know, it's not just that it's it's a relatively small amount of yield, maybe 2 to 5%. Who knows exactly what it's going to be? But the point is that it's real yield. On your regular DeFi platforms, they'll make up a number that they think is incentivizing enough, and that's not actually sustainable over a long period of time because that yield is not actually coming from anywhere. They made up a number that they think that you will be attracted to, and that's one of the biggest problems in crypto, and why crap falls apart real freaking quick is because the money that you're earning is printed money, and eventually it comes back around and makes things crash. What Twin earns out of the yield that you generate off of your gold assets and other precious metals that they're going to introduce in the early stages of their project, it's real yield that utilizes actual real world finance infrastructure. And that yield is brought on chain and brought into the Cardano ecosystem. So it's like, it's real money, real actual yield that people are paying for. So that's one of the biggest things for me, is that it's legitimately sustainable. It's a real value that is brought onto the chain.
Yeah, it's like what I really liked when I talked to Daniel from Palmyra was a similar type of thing where there's potential to bring real yield in or bring outside funds into it. I can't remember if we talked in the call or after it about potential loans and different things that could be set up through the platform to earn real yield in win-win situations where it's not like a lot of, look, I love getting involved in DeFi, yield farming, all that type of stuff, trying out different types of strategies. Some win, some lose. But at the end of the day, there's always a loser in that. It's just sometimes it's you, sometimes it's not. But when you can get opportunities outside, then there's potential for winners on both sides. So I really like that. World Mobile as well. They're bringing funds from outside back in with their buybacks. I know they're low enough at the minute. I think the next one will cross 1 million WMT. But things like that are really attractive to me, that it's not just putting the same funds around inside of crypto. It's bringing outside revenue in and putting that into the ecosystem, which I think any project that does that, I really like to see where they go. So let's see, where else are we? Catalyst, probably a topic for not today, but in 2 weeks' time, because anyone who doesn't follow it, Catalyst proposals finished up today, the submission of proposals. Now projects have proposals, or people who have proposed have 3 days to finish them up, make changes based on some feedback. So maybe in 2 weeks' time, we could do 2 weeks' time or 4, maybe coming up to voting will be a good time to do a dedicated one looking at Catalyst proposals and different ones that stand out at that point. Thoughts on NEWM? Do we want to get Josh started?
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, yeah, NEWM is one of my all-time favorite projects. The virtually everything that Andrew Westberg touches, I am bullish on. But I think this is my favorite thing that he has helped have a hand in creating. And musicians in the traditional realm are starting to realize the value of this, and like how much that they can actually get out of, and how more enabled they are to start their career as musicians because of the tools that NEWM has created and is continuing to create. It's unreal that this is not like any other music platform that's just building on Web3. They're really like on their way to creating a full suite of tools for musicians that's going to change their lives. It's really going to change the game.
Nice. Yeah, I don't own. It's another one of them projects. I don't own any of the token, but from everything I've seen on the project, I really like what they're trying to build, and building a solution for an actual problem rather than building a Web3 solution and then looking to see for the problem after, which we see far too many projects doing, is that, oh, it's easy to build this in Web3. So they build it and then they go looking to find the narrative they fit into, where these guys are looking to come the other way around, which is the right way to do it for longevity. Farid, NEWM, do you follow them, or any thoughts?
I do. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously solid team, and this is not a team that has come into crypto, like you said, and try to figure something to provide. But these are musicians first that then came into the space. So like they understand the problems that plague the music industry, and they've been in that industry to where they have had the time to be able to figure out, okay, how do we actually solve these? I sat down with a couple of the members, Ryan, Florian, Alex, there's Mike, a lot of artists that they've onboarded. And I think they have a different perspective, right? Again, really solid team, solid project. I am highly surprised that they haven't sort of, and maybe it's just optics on my end, found a lot of traction in the ecosystem. I know that they've now gotten everything live, but I think that they deserve a lot more attention. And maybe it's just early in the space for musicians, right? I know La Petite, she's worked with them, and I think she might actually be an ambassador. She's created music, and I mean, it sounds really solid. I mean, she's talking about Cardano and really talking about Web3 and crypto. And so I think that entire scene is extremely early, but I think that the idea is extremely valuable. So whenever the time does come, NEWM will be prepared and positioned and ready to go with the product. So I think it's just a matter of time, but their idea, I definitely stand behind all the way.
All right, so I'm moving down to the questions here. And I know we have one or two topics to cover them, but we'll give another few minutes to the questions. I like that we're getting lots of variation on the questions today. I'm not going to push you to answer this one if you don't want to. Price predictions for what year are we? We're at 2024 now. So for this year, look, for me, if ADA breaks $1, I'll be very happy this year. I think it's only towards the end of the summer, getting into Q4, that I see a real push in the markets. So I know some people say they're not happy with them kind of targets. For me, I'd be happy. Look, I have my own personal expectations of potentially higher. I'm also looking at potentially lower, but what I'd be happy with is breaking that type of level for this year and then into next year. But no pressure on putting numbers there. But I've seen that question asked a few times. So
yeah, everybody's always going to be asking it. I think for me, like, yeah, like that sounds pretty realistic to me. I don't want to say I'm expecting to see, but I'd like to see $2-3 by the end of 2024. That would be phenomenal. I wouldn't be like epically surprised if like $4 or $5 was in play, but like that's kind of stretching it, I think, if you're asking me. And that's the mega bullish scenario. But like, yeah, $2-3 would be dope. I'd be plenty happy with that.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I definitely don't think that we've hit the top of the market. A lot of people think that things are over, but I actually personally think that we're about to see a huge turnaround in the markets. Again, not a TA expert, but I definitely do keep up with TA outside of like my, sort of public YouTube channel. And yeah, people have sort of been lulled out. And you take a look at it, Cardano was at what, not almost 80 cents at one point, and it's dropped all the way back down to 40 cents. And if you take a close look, this is the same sort of 40-cent level that we've been fighting on the way up. we were stuck at around 38 cents and we straight blew past that 40-cent range. And I actually remember doing a live stream and Cardano was up like 22% on the day. This was back in like early December, like the first week of December. And so it's not surprising to me that we sort of retraced back down here. But I think we've got at least another leg or two in the bull market. Just like Josh mentioned, anything above $2 to $3 by the end of this year would be extremely amazing. And then going into 2025, anything on top of that is just sweetening the deal. So biggest thing for me is just having an exit plan this time. I did not have any sort of plan or strategy last time, and I've made sure to tighten up and to at least have some take profit points. So if there's anything in this conversation that I would like for the users to take away is to just at least prepare, because when we do hit those higher numbers, it's going to be extremely hard to fight that greed off.
That's a very good point. And for people to say, I'm not saying we're not going to cross $1 or go higher than that this year. I'm just saying what I'd be happy with. I have my own expectations, but that point that Farid said there, taking profits is definitely should be a major part of anyone's plan. And I would say DCA, people are probably sick of me saying it, but you're never going to time the top or time the bottom. So start selling small percentages of your profit of your portfolio at different levels and just keep stepping it up. Step it up every 10 cent the price goes up. Sell 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever way you work it out yourself, but do it that way. And then if it doesn't go to the ultimate levels you think, at least you've taken some out and then you have some for doing the opposite on the way down. Someone asked about ADA BTC. For me, we're not going to go too much into TA here now. I think the conversation's good outside of it for today. But the chart on BTC or ADA BTC, someone asked, is this the bottom? This is the chart that I follow all the time, is looking at the price of ADA against Bitcoin, because we're going to follow Bitcoin to a degree. And then it's when we can actually break away from this, that's when things start to get really interesting with the ADA USD price. We really do need to hold 700 sats, like down at 700 sats. I didn't think we were going to hit these kind of levels. Benjamin Cowan definitely did and thinks we're going to hit even lower than this in terms of ADA against Bitcoin. But back, when was it we got? Yeah, so this must be it, Farid, actually, what you're talking about, the major push. You can see it here against Bitcoin, where we broke away from being completely correlated to Bitcoin and had a major push up for a few days. Since then, been trending down. So I need to find, hopefully, this is going to be our bottom and we can start to break up them. But I will look at TA. And I used to do lots on TA, still do it outside of the videos, just don't do it as much in the videos anymore. But it's definitely something I like to keep track of. Let's see what other questions, and then jump in if there's any topics you guys want to talk about. Midnight, I haven't seen any updates on it. Things seem to have gone quieter. I know they put out their updates every Friday, I think, but they're more technical updates. So I haven't seen any launch info, anything your side.
Yeah, nothing about the launch. I have seen more development updates about different applications and use cases, which for me was a really solid read. I'll probably actually release a video touching on some of those, because for the longest I was sort of confused about what platforms or what projects would benefit from something like Midnight. And what I've seen so far is basically everything that we have here on Cardano can basically be rebuilt and has some sort of purpose or benefit building on Midnight as well. So aside from that, nothing about the airdrop. I get questions about that. I'm sure you guys do too all the time. You know, that's, I think it's on purpose. Charles like doesn't want to hype that up too much, but I did hear it was on a Twitter space where he was talking with it was the Solana community, and they were talking about XRP and about how XRP basically had, you know, the community had done a lot of stuff to the Cardano community. And to sort of make a long story short, Charles had mentioned an airdrop going to other ecosystems as well. So it wasn't just a Cardano airdrop. He talked about Bitcoiners getting an airdrop, Ethereum getting an airdrop, but he mentioned specifically that like he didn't want XRP to get an airdrop. And so that was like my biggest takeaway there. Again, you guys do with that as you will. I know for the longest, it's been always talks about only Cardano getting an airdrop, but I think it's actually going to be bigger than just Cardano. So I think that's probably why they're not saying much, is they don't want to build up too much anticipation, but they also don't want that to be the only thing that people are talking about when they discuss Midnight.
Yeah, he does like winding up the XRP community. Josh, have you heard any extra on it?
No, I haven't. I haven't put a whole lot of intentional effort into following what's happening with that, and I should because it's a big deal. But no, I've got nothing.
Yeah. See, we had Optum. Not sure if you guys are still there. I think I'll be sitting down. You guys need to book that call. I need to figure out what's going on with OADA and the yield opportunities that are going to be there. So I think that should be happening fairly soon. Carlo is asking about Rejuve. Might become more and more interesting. Singularity. So Rejuve, all I know about it is it's in the health sector and it's part of Singularity Net. I haven't went any deeper into it. I see Carlo also mentioned Nunet. Nunet had a nice push in the price in the last few days. I don't know. They must have had some announcement. I do hold a bag of Nunet for since the initial launch. I'm holding on to some of that. Don't follow just as closely, but I like the idea behind the project, which is why I've held on to it. But Rejuve or Nunet, either you guys following much?
Not closely. I do like Nunet. It's one of those Depin plays that I think is less paid attention to in the Cardano ecosystem, but in a lot of ways they have a lot of advantages over something like Icons. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I like them as well because of, and anyone who hasn't heard, it's more in the decentralized compute initially anyway, is where they're targeting. And with the big Singularity or AGIX partnership with, who's the other two? The AI coins where they're all coming together.
What was it? Was it Render, Fetch?
A Fetch was Render one. Someone will tell us in the comments now. And and ASI, I think, is going to be the coin. So I think Nunet will benefit from that for being able to provide power for that, or provide capacity and compute power for that. I'm going to jump down in the comments now because I've completely lost track where I am. If I've missed anyone's questions, they do want them asked, then please just throw them in again.
To clarify, it's Ocean Protocol.
Oh.
Ada Angelo. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name. Helped us out there in the chat.
Nice one. I knew someone to get it. Thanks very much for that. See, question on Apex. I didn't get my video out yet. I do need to. Reed, you put a few out with good info on them. Who gets access to their airdrop? From what we know so far, it will be any ADA holder, but you will have to do something on the Apex ecosystem to go in and claim it. But outside of that, from what I've seen so far, or I had a call with the team a few weeks ago now at this point, I didn't get any more information on that. But as soon as we get it, I'm sure we'll all be talking about it. Things like that, I think, are good for ADA. The more, even if people aren't interested in Apex and what they're trying to build, the likes of Apex and Midnight, with all the airdrops for the ADA price, I think it should be good because people will want to hold ADA to get it. Are they attacks on the Cardano ecosystem and trying to take parts of the community? In some ways, yes. In other ways, it can complement. I think the likes of Axo using UTXO and using basically Cardano for one of their layer twos anyway, the UTXO one, projects can build over there, and then you can still have the exact same project running on Cardano because of using the same architecture. So there can be benefits like that. Yes, some people will go over there and use that and may not come back to Cardano, but because you can have the same dApps running on both, I think we can benefit in that way, which can bring people in. And if they can get a better bridge between the EVM side and UTXO, then Cardano can benefit from that as well. But I will dive deeper into my thoughts in another video. I'm conscious of time going on here, but what's your guys' thoughts?
I don't have a ton of thoughts. I'm not super educated on the matter. I mean, like I had a bad presumption coming out of the wave of FUD that came from people criticizing the tokenomics, and then I watched Farid's video earlier today, and that helped to add some context to it. But I definitely need to be educating myself more on what it is that their parameters are set up. I think I think the whole tokenomics thing was just skinned poorly, and that created the bad perception. So yeah, if they could fix that, and I think that might help to fix some of the public perception. I really hope that they do well, because a lot of projects that I really like a lot, like Charlie 3 and Giro Wallet, have partnered with Apex to get some more exposure to mainstream crypto. So yeah, I hope they do well. But yeah, I'm not educated enough on the matter to have a solid opinion at this time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of very smart people behind it, from the tech side of things anyway, from looking through it and everyone that's involved in it, both from the Cardano side with lots of ex-IOG people and having some from the EVM side. So I am interested to see how it goes, and think there can be benefits to it. But Farid, your thoughts for people who mightn't have seen much on it yet?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, don't take what I say. Don't take what Paul says. Don't take what Josh says. Go read the light paper for yourself. Go read the tokenomics paper for yourself. A lot of people are looking for quick answers online, and sometimes you end up leaning on other people's words. And I've actually seen a couple of people walk back their sort of take on Apex after seeing the follow-up, which was released around the tokenomics, right? So even for myself, I'm learning a lot of things as I'm going. I've also received a couple of questions about, how does this benefit Cardano? And Paul, you kind of touched on that, right? It's a mutually beneficial partnership where people that have already built on Cardano are able to get exposure to Apex. You're not having to do anything, right? Whatever you've already got deployed on Cardano can be deployed there. And let's say that chain actually ends up being bigger than people anticipate, and there's an EVM community there. Well, that might be sort of their first exposure into UTXO, which then allows for them to come in and to check out Cardano, right, as well. In terms of liquidity, this platform is aiming to launch with stable coins, things that Cardano is trying to get now, right? So if they're able to hit some of these things, that could translate over into liquidity, potentially into Cardano via some of the bridging mechanisms that they've talked about as well, right? So I think that there's different offers, different benefits, of course. And one thing to also keep in mind, right, is like they're taking a slightly different approach than Cardano's taken. So Cardano's taken sort of like the laissez-faire approach, where it's like, hey, the community gets to run everything. But I think that there's a really sort of fine line with that, right? You take a look at right now, there's a lot of I don't want to say infighting, but a lot of chatter surrounding USDC. How does Cardano get marketing? How do we get more liquidity? That's because everything is basically up to the community, and we've got governance coming down the pipes, where Apex is taking a slightly different approach, where they're funding their labs and they're funding their I forget the other name, the foundation, right, with liquidity to actually onboard people. So when they launch, they already have partners. Josh actually highlighted a couple of them, right? He highlighted Charlie 3, Giro Wallet. These are projects that already have a base here in Cardano. And so it's not going to be like Cardano, where we launched and it took forever to get smart contracts. It took a while for MintSwap and all these dexes to build up. They're going to be launching on day one with working products, with working platforms ready to go. And take a look at the EVM side of things. They're onboarding Tenderly, one of the biggest infrastructure providers that's work with the Polygon team, Ethereum. Like they're not just they're not swinging in the dark here. They've brought on and partnered up with some of the biggest entities in the EVM space, and looking to do the same thing in the Cardano space. So yes, some projects will migrate, some won't. But for me, it's like, hey, if you've already built on Cardano, why not just deploy on Apex? If it works, great. If it doesn't, you didn't have to spend anything extra to deploy there, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of benefits. But again, just to reiterate, people to go in and look and do the reading themselves. Again, my video should be a primer to at least get you, rolling. But I always encourage people to take a look at the tokenomics for themselves, and to understand that at the end of the day, they're taking a business approach to a blockchain, whereas Cardano's taken a much more homegrown approach, which is, I think, why there's a little bit of discrepancy there. I think people from the Cardano community expected the same exact sort of tokenomic setup, and I'm like, guys, it's not Cardano 2.0. It's a completely different blockchain. They're taking a completely different approach, and that's okay. They're just building a bridge to Cardano in hopes of fostering both ecosystems, EVM and UTXO. So that's my spiel there. Again, go make up your own mind and use other people's opinions loosely, especially when it comes to brand new projects like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. Everyone will have their own opinion and things they like, things they don't like. So take take everyone's opinion and then go off and read it and make your own. Take everyone else's just as an input, the same as you're getting from reading the paper yourself. But one thing I really do like is the funding mechanism they have for projects. And it's a variation of ISPOs where the foundation has an allocation, I think 12% maybe or something, which they won't be able to sell, but they can delegate that to projects that are building. So projects can go through the process looking for funding, and rather than getting just a handout, they have to spin up a pool, and then the funds get delegated to the pool, and then they can keep the staking rewards from that. So they can keep full rewards from it. So every epoch they're getting drip-fed funds, whereas we have Catalyst on Cardano, which has a lot of really good things about it. One of the biggest disadvantages is how long it takes for a team to actually get funding from they start the journey, where if you could have a mix of the two, I think it's really good. I know the Cardano Foundation is set up differently than that, and they stay away from funding projects, but it is an aspect that I do like, and maybe could even see at some point in the future for Cardano getting a variation of this, maybe on a smaller degree with governance coming in, that there could be a fund set aside for something similar to that, or if you had some of the DREPs deciding on projects that can get funding in that mechanism and nobody can sell the ADA, but it's delegated to the pool and the projects keep it. But I thought that was definitely an interesting one and came out of ISPOs, which on Cardano was the first. So I'm looking down to see what have I missed here. Hey, what's up, Studio Monaca? Yeah, we're going to do something maybe before voting opens on Catalyst Fund 12 and go through, maybe live, we'll go through some of the different proposals, get people in the comments to come on and suggest proposals. We can go in and take a look at them and give some exposure to some of the good ones that are out there. And best of luck in the round. But did I miss anything else? Yeah, fly over me. That is the long-term goal for me, is to be able to not have to sell crypto, but to be able to take loans out against it. Because outside of crypto, that's what the really rich do, is they use their assets as collateral. They don't go off and sell things or cash in where they have to pay capital gains or they have to pay small amounts, but they always work things around it that you can leverage the assets that you have to take out loans, get something else with that money that pays back the loan, plus pays you some profit. And that's how they're able to grow. So for me, long-term, that's definitely an approach I'd love to have, is to be able to, and people have very mixed opinions within Cardano on MELD, but I have my own thoughts on it too. But if they can get the product that they're talking about, where you can use crypto as the asset to back it and get a fiat loan, I'll definitely be a customer no matter what's going on. If they can prove that model and get that working, I'd be a customer of that, because that is what crypto needs, is easy, just a smooth process between fiat or between non-crypto and crypto. We have Trim. What's up, Trim? Good to see you in the comments. Seen some pictures of him out and about touching grass over the weekend, out doing a bit of farming. Good to see you get away from the screen sometimes too. Let me see. Any other topics that we haven't touched on? I know we're coming up close to the hour now. Always saying before, oracles. I don't know what the right and wrong thing to have on this. There was another incident for oracles on Cardano. Farid actually had a very good video on that today. So make sure after this, go and check that out for a deeper dive. We probably won't get that deep into it now. But the issue this time was on LenFi, and LenFi have their own internal oracle from what I've seen. Look, LenFi have built a brilliant platform, open source platform. I don't know if the oracle part is open source or not, but as far as I know, they were only tracking one exchange, MinSwap, for the price of Butane. But Butane moved the majority of their liquidity over to the new SundaeSwap V3 pool, which wasn't being monitored for price. So when I presume there was a trade done on MinSwap that dropped the price, and then that started to trigger liquidations over on LenFi. Actually, Farid, it's all fresh in your head. I'll let you give the summary of it.
You nailed it. You nailed it. I think you literally hit it right on the money. I would just say maybe the only thing for me, it's not even adding to the statement, but it's a question. What happens to those users? You know, if you had a position open and you got liquidated, what's being done for you to be made whole? You didn't trigger it. You know, your assets should have been there. So my thing is like, how does LenFi rectify this? I'd love to see some sort of post-mortem. I'd love to see some sort of solution or plan about how they plan on either adopting C3 org facts or making their solution much more robust, right? Which would mean incorporating centralized exchanges in addition to DEXs like MintSwap. But I mean, it's been, I think, a clear point here that any sort of bottleneck will always be an issue. I felt like with LQ, that should have been a clear warning sign, right? They had a very similar thing back in late February, I think, or early February, excuse me, or early January. And it's happened a couple of times. It's only a matter of time before one of these platforms grows big enough to where it's going to have a multi-million-dollar impact. And I think by then it's going to be too late. So I understand. And there was actually a couple of comments earlier about the chat or in the chat about this topic. And I understand, right? Like paying for an Oracle is not cheap. I've spoken to a couple of teams and it's like a couple of dollars every few minutes. And if you're not getting a lot of traffic, it doesn't make sense for you to, to be paying for an Oracle. So I think it's a very, very fine line between how much is an actual platform making versus how much does the Oracle cost? Because if they do get an Oracle and they're not getting increased traffic, that could actually end up putting them at a loss over the long term. So it's a very sort of touchy situation, but I think it's something that we cannot forego any further. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see this. And again, I feel bad for anybody who was liquidated because it's like, what happens? Does LenFi owe you something? Does Butane owe you something? I think there obviously should have been clear communication between both of the teams. But yeah, it just kind of is what it is. You've got to, roll with the punches. But it sucks to see something like this happening, which I think could be very off-putting for anybody who's even thinking about going into DeFi. I mentioned earlier, it's already risky, and things like this make me not want to, participate in DeFi as much, but more rather focus into Depin like we discussed earlier.
Yeah, I think that's the risk, is that it scares too many people away from DeFi. Is at the minute, within Cardano, we have a lot of people who just hold ADA and stake it. And over the last few years, that's been fairly good. I know when I started staking, it was 5.5% was the staking rewards. So I was quite happy to sit with the majority of my ADA sitting in that. Now we have DeFi, we have different opportunities. I allocate different amounts to different baskets for myself and what I do. But when you start to see things like this, it is a bit of a concern. It's been talked about in the community of how do we get solutions for this? We do have org facts. We have Charlie 3 as just Oracle solutions themselves. I think Butane are actually working on one that they're going to open source. I don't know, was that Catalyst or were they just looking at it themselves? But we need to kind of figure out some standard, because it will do damage to people's trust in not just these protocols, but in DeFi overall. Even protocols that might use dedicated Oracle solutions and try and do everything right. The cost, I think, definitely is a factor. I know Cardano, people will say we have cheap transactions, 0.17 ADA per transaction, maybe 0.2 when you interact with smart contracts. Sometimes it can be a bit more. But when you're looking at Oracle transactions and you have different Oracle nodes submitting, then whoever is getting the feed has to pay for the different nodes submitting to the network, and then actually the smart contract transactions. So it does come out to be a couple of ADA for every transaction. So it does add up. This is where we need to find some compromise solution, whether that is a form of a layer 2. I know with the ZK proof stuff that I talked about with the guys from Anastasia Labs, maybe there's something there to make it cheaper for people, that the aggregation of the different nodes can happen off chain and then it's rolled up to actually have one transaction posted to the network. So it could be cheaper like that, but definitely we need some solutions before it does too much damage. And Blake there from Ada Street Bets, anyone on Twitter, make sure to check out. I think the group is open for everyone. If not, sorry, but if it is, go and search for Ada Street Bets. and you might be able to join in. But a really good group of people in there. Core is Cardano and people who've been in Cardano for a long time. So a lot of straight talkers there. And there is a postmortem, I just looked it up there, from LenFi. It came out on the talk of who makes people whole. I seen Butane come out and said that they would make someone whole. I don't know who's responsible though. This is when you get involved in DeFi, you get involved for the good and bad. You take the risk of what comes with DeFi. I know this is outside of what should happen, but I don't know who's responsible for it. Is it Butane for moving the liquidity? Although it shouldn't be up to them to make sure and monitor that other dApps are tracking the right liquidity prices. You can make the argument that at such low volumes and such low liquidity on Cardano right now, projects should be aware of this. So I don't know. But Josh, before we finish up, thoughts?
Yeah, this whole situation is kind of precisely why the Oracle question is a priori for me. It's like it's a no-go. It's a non-starter if they're not at least planning to implement a decentralized Oracle. I think Charlie 3 gets a bad rap because, like, yeah, they're closed source, but it makes sense why they're closed source. Like, everything that they've built hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff that, like, if they just open sourced it, they'd be giving it away for free. It doesn't make any sense for them to open source just business model wise. And like, the saving grace with the whole LQ situation with the display of wrong data feeds on their platform, they were saved by those redundancies that they built in place because the Charlie Oracle wasn't perfect on that. But that redundancy that they built it because Charlie 3 told them to. So like Charlie 3 is very well aware of like where we're at technologically, of where we're at in the industry. They're well aware that redundancies are needed, and they know what they're doing. I think they get a bad rap because they're closed source, but they really are a quality product, and as they're I think the most reliable decentralized Oracle that we can actually get access to right now in the Cardano ecosystem. That's not to say that like more providers couldn't come into the space and create a competitive product. I'm all about competition, and I think that's great. I am a fan of like what OrcFax is doing, and I think that they're once I look into it deeper and they have a more established, mature product, I'll be able to dive deeper and more establish my opinion on that one. But yeah, like the whole decentralized Oracle side of the Cardano ecosystem is definitely something that needs more development and more maturity. There's good products out there that are available, but it's an important hot button issue that people don't seem to be taking seriously. Yes, it's expensive, but it's expensive for a reason. So yeah, that's where I land on that issue.
Yeah, this was here about how about a Catalyst fund for helping projects with Oracle payments. I know Charlie 3's ADUSD fund was for a few months basically sponsored by Catalyst. They put in funding or put in proposals to Catalyst that got approved. So they were running the ADUSD feed where anybody could come out and use that. The thing then is that individual projects need feeds for every token that's up. So like Butane, it probably was a Butane ADA feed that was needed there for keeping track of the price at that point. And I don't know what the solution is. Charles talked about at one point having what you call it? Like Builderfest, but he wanted to do it for oracles at his ranch maybe. I know Cardano Foundation talked about maybe putting in proposals or voting on proposals at some point. I think oracles was mentioned as something that could be looked into. The only thing is if the foundation come out and start doing something there, it's very hard for them to pick Charlie 3 or pick OrcFax. They nearly need to build an oracle themselves. But then it's coming from the foundation. So whether they go down that route, I don't know. Or Trim says the ADUSD feed is still free for a while. I don't know if they have a new proposal into Catalyst for to continue that on. If they do, I'll be voting for it. I think it's important to have feeds like that. But we are just gone over the hour. Anything else you guys want to throw in there, or Any closing thoughts before we close it out?
I mean, if you guys want to talk about Cornucopias for 5-10 minutes, I could definitely lay down some stuff for you.
Actually, Corey was asking about, was it Corey? Someone was asking about Copy staking. You can tell him about the stake pools and the different ways of how he can do that.
Yeah. So Cornucopias just launched. Actually, that reminds me, there's something I was supposed to be looking into, but I'll have to check on that later. Cornucopias has their stake pool offering that just went live a couple of weeks ago, I think. So it works just like an ISPO. You delegate to the stake pool, and 100% of your rewards gets paid back to you in Copy, and you can claim that on drip drops every periodic 6 to 7 weeks, or 6 to 7 epochs, I should say, and you get Copy out of it. They announced it on the last Copy Cafe that they're upping the rewards from 105% of your ADA rewards to 115% of your ADA rewards getting paid back to you in Copy. So you get the equivalent value paid back to you in Copy plus a bonus 15% that you can accumulate Copy tokens for just by delegating to their stake pool. So that's something that they have available to you now. And then ongoing, they also have their land staking program that's wrapping up. But if you have land assets, you can get Copy tokens for free if you're staking to their Copy stake pool. But the stake pool offering, the ticker for that one is Copy C. So if you wanted to jump on and delegate for that one to accumulate some Copy tokens, they've got some pretty huge stuff coming up in this next year that they're really excited about, and a lot of that is going to be centered around the Copy token. So that's there for you.
Nice, thanks for that. I need to check the pools. The wallet that I hold my land in, I think I have that stake. That pool hasn't changed, has it? It's still the same pool as it was. It's just a new one for the ISO now.
Yes, yeah. So for the land staking, if you don't want to do the SPO, if you the stake pool offering, and you just want to get ADA rewards, but you still want to participate in the land staking, then you can stay in the Copy stake pool. But if you also want to get access to the stake pool offering, they've arranged it with their partner at Drip Drops, so that if you want to do land staking, you can also maintain that accumulation rewards. If you were to redelegate to the Copy C stake pool, then you can get Copy for your land assets, and you can get Copy for the stake pool offering side of it. So that's there. Yep.
See, Vic is asking about the node pools. I would say, was it the last Copy Cafe that they went deeper into the node, or it was the one before they went deeper into the nodes, and they had the guy on that's building it?
Yeah. Yes.
That might be a good one to watch.
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic one. They talk about it on like every Copy Cafe over the past few weeks, because it's one of the big projects that they're working on. It's a really, really interesting value proposition. And this guy that they've brought on, Craig, he is a mastermind when it comes to cloud storage technologies, cloud-based solutions. So the value that he's been able to bring to this technology is just out of this world. I think it's going to be a game-changing technology that, like, it literally doesn't exist. This is something that like Cornucopias has invented in order to support the game infrastructure. So it's exciting stuff.
Nice. I'm gonna leave closing thought. Actually, anyone who hasn't liked yet, please do so. It helps push this message out. I think we get a lot of good info out about Cardano, so the more likes and shares it gets, the more people get to see it. And the two guys' channels are in the description if you're not subscribed. But Farid, I'm going to give you the closing thoughts to round us out.
Yeah, sure thing. Exciting times to be in the Cardano community. Tons going on. Thank you as always for bringing this up here. I learn a lot from you guys just as much as I try to educate people. But yeah, I would just say everybody should have a long-term mindset, right? Obviously, right now price action isn't necessarily in our favor, but there's still developments going on. A lot of building, a lot to sort of educate yourself around as Cardano matures and as the ecosystem continues to build on. So thank you as always for the opportunity. I enjoy these chats. I enjoy chatting with everybody in the live comment section there. Thanks to Rob for showing up. Thanks to Trim, Doug, Victor, appreciate everybody for tuning in here. And I look forward to doing this again in 14 days.
Yeah, look, guys, I appreciate your time. It's always great to, I love sitting back here and not having to write down a bit too much talking today, but in general, sitting back and not having to do all the talking, it's always great. I get to sit back and learn. And I think we got lots of questions and input from people in the chat today. They're the ones I really enjoy because we want to talk about the topics that people in the comments are interested in. So everyone who got involved, thanks very much. Do appreciate it. We'll be back with these in 2 weeks' time. So we're going to stick to every Monday. And no, we still didn't get a name. I've seen people asking there. So we're going to wait and see, does Pete turn up, and we'll decide on a name then, and maybe do something where we can let the community pick it for the end. But thanks for watching, guys. Do appreciate it. Guys, thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you all soon.